Welcome to the first episode of the Dimecast podcast. I'm Bethel Duran, and I'm just going to be asking my boy Danny Hernandez a bunch of questions about what it takes to be a quarterback. All right, I don't want to interview you, Danny. I want to be the guy who has no clue about what you do, and I want you to teach me. This is why we're having this podcast. It was your idea. Was it, or was it mine?
I think it was yours.
Okay.
But, we could both rock with this. Yeah.
All right, so Danny Hernandez, your title is what?
I think I look at it as I'm a QB mentor. There's a lot of things that are attached to this, whether it's trainer, mentor, coach, whatever it is you want to see. I guess I wear a lot of hats.
All right, so you train kids
Yes.
to become quarterbacks, not just for the pros, not just for college, but for everything, right? From 8-year-olds to guys that are in the Canadian Football League, like our boy Jake Meyer, or pros like Bryce Young, guys that you've worked with. But you are that's it, just the quarterback. That's it, nothing else.
I'll work with a couple other positions and everything, but quarterback, that's where my love is. That's where my passion is. And I think it's the greatest position in all sports.
All right, so today's episode, what we're going to talk about is why. Because Danny, you've been a guest on like 8,000 podcasts. Everybody has a podcast. Everybody's on Instagram Live. Everybody has a TikTok. So when people are going to say, oh, great, another podcast. But this is going to be different because it's going to come from you.
Yes.
I threw the idea at you about a year ago, right? It was basically, let's take our text message and actually have a freaking show about this. So this isn't going to be, okay, Danny is like going to give you instruction. If you want instruction, you go follow Danny's page and then you pay the money and go on Saturday and Sundays, wherever you may be. This is more about the approach that you should have, the lifestyle, and what it really takes to get to the next level, isn't it? Yeah.
And then hopefully the viewers, listeners are able to look at this whole thing as a peek kind of behind the curtain, just kind of see some of the things that happen behind the scenes in this whole process.
All right. So what we're going to be doing is each week we're going to have a different episode and we'll have a theme to it. It's not going to be like, oh, hey, Danny, you're amazing. You're you guys player of the week, because think about it, if you're a Team Dimes player, you're going to be player of the week no matter what. But it's more about the education that's really huge right now, because when I was doing my research on if I want to be involved in another podcast, because again, we know there's 8 billion podcasts.
Yes.
It's what can we do different? And what I noticed is a lot of people in football, whether it's quarterback, kickers, shout out to my boy Aaron Perez, or receivers or linemen or everything else out there, what's lacking is the education of how to get to, hey, my kid is now born in the crib with the football to I'm actually making him a millionaire, right? There's so many things that go through the cracks and fall apart there. That's what I want to learn from you.
No, and it's definitely a process, and we kind of have to start with the baby steps and work our way up. I think sometimes people look at social media and different things and they want to jump to this level already, but there's steps and levels before we get there.
All right, so it's called Dimecast.
Yes.
Because you're, the hoodie that I got, by the way, thanks for Los Angeles Dimes, right? Not the Times, not just Dimes, but LA, because you're from LA. Where are you from?
Pico Rivera.
Pico Rivera.
Yeah.
And you went to high school where?
I went to Cathedral High School.
All right. And then, this is what I love about Danny. Here's how I found out who Danny was. Our boy was writing a story for The Athletic, right? Antonio Morales. And I read it, and I'm like, man, that's cool. This dude left a job at a record company.
Law firm.
Records
department.
Records department, who had a regular job and hated everything about it.
Yes.
And then at 3:00, as soon as you could, you run out to go coach.
Any chance that I could.
Because that's where your true passion was.
Without a doubt.
And then you bet on yourself. Your wife, by the way, shout out to your lovely wife who said,
thank you.
Yes, mi amor, go. Go be broke and go coach.
Yes, yeah.
So how did you become just a quarterback specific guy?
Obviously playing the position and starting coaching right away, you get thrown into the, coaching the position that you played, so I ended up doing that and coaching. Everything was great. Then little by little, started picking up kids that wanted to train, so then it started kind of not only going from the coaching side, and it kind of started going into the training side. I enjoyed that side because, you're working with kids of all different levels at that point, from different programs and everything like that. And then, again, started off really small with it, and just little by little, just kind of kept catching on.
So you get your own family at home. You're the coach at in Southern California. You get done about 6:00, and there's a kid like, hey, can you work on me with my mechanics here? Now, shout out to all the previous guys that paved the way, like Steve Clarkson, who had a bunch of stuff, like guys all over the country that have done things. But now with social media, you know who is out there. There's so many different ways you can train. So you weren't thinking, hey, I'm going to become this guy that's going to have guys in the NFL. It was just more of, let me help out a kid who wants to learn to be a quarterback.
No doubt. And I think kind of what my initial passion with the whole thing was being able to work with kids. A lot of times it looked like me, to be honest with you. I mean, the kids that I was working with were from, you know, the Black and brown communities, you know, and those are a lot of guys that maybe didn't have the resources or the connections to get training, you know. So I looked at it like, hey, can I help those kids out as much as I can? Because I know when I played, you know, my dad did the best job that he possibly could. We probably couldn't afford some of these high-end trainers that were out there. So I was trying to give that quality of work, you know, at a low price.
I remember hearing, so my background is I work for ESPN Radio here in Los Angeles, and I remember interviewing Mark Sanchez when we got to see, and Mark would always tell a story that, you know, his dad, shout out to his dad, firefighter in LA County for so many years, who grew up in the East LA area. When they were down in Orange County, they'd go see those trainers working with those rich kids in South Orange County, and they'd watch the drills from top of the hill.
Oh, yeah.
And, all right, let's go to the park. You and your brothers, we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. It was really just about the teaching for you. That's what, and at the end of the day, that's still what matters to you right now.
Without a doubt, you know, it's like, and I love that hustle, you know, and that really is something that you got to do. And there's still some people to this day that are doing stuff like that, you know, and you do whatever you can, obviously.
Because it's expensive going to see Danny.
No, it is.
Now, not then, but now.
Yeah, it gets, you know, again, I try to keep things, you know, as fair as I possibly can, but you know, there's only so much time in the day, there's only so many days in the week, you know, and the prices do go up a little bit.
Yeah, it's great. Like, I'm happy for you. You've evolved from just getting one kid afterwards at Cathedral or Salesian or wherever you may be to where you're at now, where you're traveling the country, putting on these camps, putting on these shows, working players, and it's no longer just, hey, the 3-step drop. It's about the business, and we're going to get into that in the podcast about how you help kids get recruited. The NIL world, which is just absolutely the wild, wild west.
Oh, yeah. How
to maintain yourself, the drill. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to hear stories. We're going to talk to stories. We're going to have guests in here. Like, we got a sweet setup. We got the Dimecast. We're going to have some merch. But this isn't about selling anybody anything. It's about telling stories and telling your story out there. That's what I want to hear, man.
Yeah, let's have a good time. Let's tell some great stories and see if we could help some people.
All right, your social media is, Danny. There's your camera. Is this called your ISO?
This is my ISO.
There's your
ISO.
ISO.
So in my ISO on Instagram, DannyH131. And if you're on Twitter, Coach Danny10.
Oh, man. He's learning the ISOs. He's learning the lingo. And this is a collector's edition. They don't make these anymore.
There you go.
There it is. Danny Hernandez, Beth Duran, and you're watching the Dimecast podcast.